What if the next car to embarrass Porsche, Rolls Royce, and Mercedes doesn't come from Stuttgart or Crewe at all? What if it comes from a factory floor in China, wearing a badge most Americans have never even heard of? Right now, 7 vehicles are rolling off Chinese production lines that outrun hypercars, out-luxury Maybachs, and undercut their Western rivals by tens of thousands of dollars, and almost none of them are sold in the United States. By the time we reach number 1, you will understand why European and American automakers are watching China's newest flagships very, very closely. For decades, the story was simple. China built cheap cars, and the West built prestige. That story is now dead. Chinese manufacturers stopped chasing affordability years ago and started chasing the crown jewels of the auto industry: the hypercar podium, the ultra-luxury sedan, the executive limousine. They hired the designers who shaped Rolls Royce. They built battery architecture that charges faster than anything wearing a German badge. And in at least one case, they built the single fastest production car on the planet. Today, we're counting down 7 of them, the cars that are quietly forcing the entire auto industry to look east. Let's start the countdown. Number 7, the XPeng X9. This is not a supercar, and that's exactly the point. The X9 is a 7-seat electric people mover, the kind of vehicle America barely makes anymore, and XPeng turned it into a rolling technology showcase. The front is closed off and futuristic, styled like the nose of a starship, with a hexagonal mesh intake and hidden LiDAR tucked into the lower corners, where fog lights would normally sit. The windshield rakes back at a steep angle and the roofline floats above blacked-out pillars, giving a 5-meter-long minivan the silhouette of something far sportier. Around back, the rear window is sharply sloped, part of an aerodynamic package that gives the X9 a drag coefficient of 0.227, the best of any people mover currently on sale anywhere. Step inside and the family van pretense disappears completely. Zero-gravity reclining second-row seats with massage functions, a 21-inch roof-mounted screen for rear passengers, a 23-speaker sound system, and a hot and cold refrigerator built into the console. Under the hood, so to speak, the base front-wheel drive version makes 320 horsepower, while the all-wheel drive performance variant adds a second motor for 496 horsepower and a 0 to 62 mile-an-hour time of 5.9 seconds, quick for something that seats 7. Range tops out around 466 miles on the Chinese testing cycle with the larger battery, and the whole thing is built on an 800-volt platform that recovers most of a charge in about 20 minutes. Then there's the brain behind it all. Up to 2,250 trillion operations per second of onboard computing power, split across 3 custom chips, more raw processing than most luxury sedans carry today. Pricing starts under $50,000. So here's the question. Would American families rather have a minivan or a starship? Number 6, the Hongqi Guoya. If you want to understand how seriously China is taking ultra-luxury, look at who Hongqi hired to build this. Giles Taylor, the design chief responsible for the modern Rolls-Royce Phantom, Cullinan, and Wraith, left Rolls-Royce and joined Hongqi to build this sedan from scratch. And it shows. The front is dominated by a commanding upright grille with a hood ornament, deliberately ceremonial, deliberately imposing, built to be driven by a chauffeur rather than a daily commuter. The side profile stretches over 17 feet long with a 128-inch wheelbase, putting it directly in Mercedes S-Class and Bentley Flying Spur territory. Step into the rear cabin and you're greeted by heated, ventilated, and massaging captain's chairs, a 32-speaker audio system, and Napa leather paired with natural wood trim throughout the cabin. Under the hood, buyers choose between a 3-liter turbocharged V6 hybrid making 381 horsepower or a 4-liter turbocharged V8 hybrid producing 476 horsepower, both paired to an 8-speed automatic and all-wheel drive. Domestic Chinese pricing runs from roughly $200,000 up to about $270,000 for the top spec V8. And in markets like Russia, where it's been exported to fill the gap left by sanctioned European brands, that price climbs even higher. For the money, you're getting the same design pedigree that shaped a Rolls Royce, wrapped around a car that costs less than a base model Rolls Royce Ghost. So which would you trust more? A century of British heritage, or the man who built that heritage, now working for China? Number 5. The Denza Z9 GT. Denza is BYD's premium sub-brand, and the Z9 GT was built with one target in mind, the Porsche Panamera. The exterior leans hard into that comparison. A sloping hood, a fastback roofline, and a low, wide stance that Autocar itself compared directly to the Taycan Sport Turismo. Frameless doors and pop-up handles keep the silhouette clean, and the car is genuinely bigger than a Panamera in every dimension. Inside, Denza went further than most luxury brands dare, with 2 separate refrigerators, a 4-liter unit up front, and a 10-liter unit in the rear armrest, alongside heated, ventilated, and massaging seats in both rows and a Deviolette sound system. Power comes from a tri-motor setup producing up to 952 horsepower, enough for a 0 to 60 time of 3.4 seconds, and the rear axle can steer up to 20 degrees, letting the car perform a full crab walk, maneuver sideways into a parking space. Range reaches 391 miles on the Chinese cycle, and the 800-volt architecture supports up to 270 kilowatts of DC fast charging. Now, here's the number that actually matters. In China, the lineup starts around $39,000, with the range-topping tri-motor version landing closer to $54,000. And even in Europe, where pricing climbs to around $135,000, it still undercuts a comparably specified Panamera by tens of thousands. Porsche, are you paying attention? We're only halfway through this list, and every car so far has been aimed at a Western institution. Porsche, Rolls Royce, the modern American minivan. From here, things escalate fast, because the next 3 cars aren't just competing with luxury brands, they're setting world records against them. Number 4. The NIO ET9. This is NIO's answer to the Mercedes EQS and the BMW i7, and in several ways, it's already ahead of both. The ET9 is the first production car in China to run a full 900-volt electrical architecture, and the first anywhere to pair that with steer-by-wire technology, meaning there is no mechanical connection between the steering wheel and the front wheels at all. At low speed, the steering ratio tightens up for effortless parking. At highway speed, it firms up for stability. The suspension is even more radical, a fully active hydraulic system developed with the American company ClearMotion, capable of pushing or pulling each wheel independently in under a single millisecond. At its launch event, NIO proved the point in dramatic fashion, sending the car over a row of speed bumps while a stack of champagne glasses sat perched on the hood, and every single glass stayed upright. Inside, the rear cabin is built around a reclining executive seat with a hot stone massage function and a fold-out table, closer to a private jet than a sedan. Performance comes from a dual-motor system producing 697 horsepower, enough for a 0 to 60 time of around 4 seconds, and the 900-volt architecture allows for charging at up to 600 kilowatts, some of the fastest charging speeds of any production car in the world. Range lands at 400 miles on the Chinese cycle, and the price, at launch, around $108,000. A car chasing the Mercedes EQS and the BMW i7, undercutting both by tens of thousands of dollars, while introducing technology neither of them currently offers. Number 3. The Zeekr 001 FR. FR stands for Future Road, and this car was built to publicly humiliate the Tesla Model S Plaid. It's technically a shooting brake, essentially a very fast wagon, wrapped in a full carbon fiber aerodynamic package. 4 independent electric motors, 1 per wheel, combine for 1,247 horsepower, enough to launch the car from 0 to 60 in 2.07 seconds. faster than Zeekr's own claimed number for the Model S Plaid on the same measurement standard. Those same 4 motors allow the 001 FR to perform a full tank turn, rotating in place using opposite wheel torque, a party trick borrowed from BYD's own SUVs. Inside, the cabin swaps out much of the leather for a lightweight technical fabric, part of an effort to shave weight everywhere possible in the name of lap times. A 15.4-inch central touchscreen and an 8.8-inch digital cluster run the show, while the seats themselves are pulled straight from Zeekr's track-focused parts bin. Range sits around 342 miles, respectable for something this quick, and Zeekr caps production at just 99 units per month, keeping the car deliberately exclusive. Pricing lands around $105,000. That is a 2-second car in wagon form, a body style barely sold in America at all. And Zeekr has already confirmed a next-generation FR in testing, aiming for over 2,000 horsepower and a run at the Nürburgring lap record. We're at the final 2 now, and both of these cars were built for a single purpose: to prove China can build the most expensive, most exclusive luxury car on the planet and the single fastest car on the planet at the same time. Number 2. The Huawei Maestro S800. Huawei doesn't make cars itself. It partners with automakers and supplies the technology stack, and the S800 is the result of that partnership with JAC. Built to go straight after the Mercedes-Maybach S-Class and the Rolls Royce Spectre. The car is enormous, over 17.5 feet long, making it China's largest production sedan, with disc-style wheels and a starlit roofliner that multiple outlets have called unmistakably inspired by Rolls-Royce. Inside, 4 executive seats, ultra-soft leather, ambient lighting that flows across the cabin, and a headline-grabbing 43-speaker audio system in the refreshed model. Huawei's Harmony OS runs the infotainment, backed by a suite of LiDAR and radar sensors for advanced autonomous driving. Buyers choose between a fully electric version producing 852 horsepower from 3 motors, or an extended range version that adds a small gasoline generator purely to top up the battery, pushing output as high as 1,006 horsepower in its top configuration. 0 to 60 happens in around 4.3 seconds, despite the car's near 3-ton curb weight. Chinese launch pricing ran from about $102,000 up to $146,000, positioning it well below a comparably specified Maybach S-Class, while matching or exceeding its power output. In a widely publicized cold weather comparison test staged by Huawei, the S800 was shown maintaining stability at -20 degrees, where a Maybach S680 reportedly struggled. China's largest sedan, aimed directly at the Maybach badge and undercutting it by tens of thousands of dollars. And finally, number 1, the BYD Yangwang U9. This is not just the most extreme car on this list. It is, as of right now, the fastest production car in the entire world. Faster than anything wearing a Bugatti, Koenigsegg, or Hennessy badge. The standard U9 is already absurd on its own. 4 independent electric motors producing 1,287 horsepower, a 0 to 60 time of 2.36 seconds, and BYD's D-Sus-X suspension system, which can lift the entire car off the ground on demand, redistribute weight instantly if a tire blows out at speed, and even bounce the car rhythmically to music. Chinese pricing for the standard car sits around $236,000. But the real headline is the track-focused U9 Extreme, limited to just 30 units worldwide. Its 4 motors were upgraded to a combined output of roughly 2,978 horsepower, running on a first-of-its-kind 1,200-volt electrical architecture. In September of 2025, a U9 Extreme driven by German test driver Mark Bassing reached 496 kilometers per hour, 308 miles per hour, at a testing facility in Germany. A number BYD and multiple outlets covering the run have called the highest ever logged by a production car. Worth noting, the run was only completed in one direction rather than the two directions Guinness requires for an official record, so some record keepers have not certified it, even though the speed itself was independently timed. One of those 30 Extreme units still sold at the 2026 Beijing Auto Show for $2.76 million, the single most expensive vehicle BYD has ever produced. A Chinese electric coupe, built by a company that was making budget sedans little more than a decade ago, is now, by every available measurement, the fastest car human beings can currently buy. So there you have it, 7 cars that America has never seen on its roads, from a starship-shaped minivan to the fastest production car on Earth. What started as a story about affordable EVs has quietly become a story about who actually leads the auto industry. Now I want to know what you think. Would you trust the Hongqi Guoya over a Rolls Royce Ghost? Would you take the Denza Z9 GT over a Porsche Panamera? And be honest, would you actually get in a car built to outrun a Bugatti if that car was Chinese? Drop your answer in the comments below, and if this changed the way you look at the global car industry, make sure you're subscribed.